Okay, I think I'm going to start, so don't run out of the schedule. My name is Lili. I'm a jewelry designer, and I'm going to talk about design aesthetics today. Can you hear me in the back? Is the sound okay, everyone? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to talk a bit about myself. I'm, as I said, a jewelry designer and a diamond specialist. And I was lucky enough to be born in a family with 2 generations of jewelers. And so I kind of experienced this whole environment from my early childhood. And I'm also very enthusiastic about it, so I happen to also love what I do. And I decided, after I finished high school, I decided that I wanted to travel a bit, to study abroad. I went to Australia. I lived in Sydney for 3 years, and to study design. I have a master in design, and I also studied in London, specifically in the jewelry field. So it was a great experience for me to kind of find my own voice in terms of like as being a designer. And then I returned to Hungary, and I created my brand, LIKO, the one you can see up on the slide. And now I'm going to talk a bit about how I create aesthetic design content and a few tips for you guys if you want to start your own business, how to start it up. Okay, so this is a really big favorite of mine, this quote. It's from a book called The Little Prince. I'm sure all of you know about it. And this quote is important for me because it's not only about like the design, but it's also the way I perceive life and the way I try to approach everything what I do. And funny enough, there's nothing about aesthetics or visuals or anything in the quote that design is representing. But if you think about it for a moment, a good design creates an emotion in someone. So the most important value of creating a good design is to create a complex emotion and to create some kind of response from the viewer. Either it's positive or negative or neutral, it doesn't matter, but it's important that design creates emotion. Today I'm going to talk about 3 topics regarding aesthetic design content. So the first one is know yourself. I think this is a very important part in the content creation. Okay. Identify with your product. This is a crucial thing because I think all of us are creative thinkers or creatives or someone, or if you want to start up a business, even if it's not exactly in the creative industry, but you need some sort of thinking. And it has to represent you. It has to represent something that you identify with and something that you feel 100% comfortable with, because that's the way that you can be genuine and honest about it. So for example, giving you my own example, I'm designing jewelry from fine materials like gemstones and gold, and I could wear these anytime. So I'm happy to wear my products, and this is how I can genuinely represent it. For example, I really don't like plastic. I have an issue with all the plastic consumption that's going on in the world, and I think it's very sad what it's doing to our nature and so on. So I would never, for example, I would never design jewelry made of plastic, and I would never wear it because I just can't identify with it. So for me, it's a good advice that I would like to give you, that always represent something that you completely immerse into and you feel it. Okay. Another important factor, I think, is to understand when you're creating design content, you need to understand your strengths and weaknesses, because we all have them, okay? So let's talk about the communication channels. For example, the social media or a website or a vlog, you need to choose one channel or one or two channels that you feel comfortable with. And don't try to push something that you don't like, you don't identify with it. For example, I put these two pictures up there because one is a model that I'm working with usually for jewelry photo shooting. I really don't like to be photographed. I become really awkward in front of the camera. The pictures are horrible, so I'm trying, besides the necessary couple of portrait pictures, I'm trying not to be photographed, but I really like vlogging, so this is something new to me. But in front of like a camera, when I can talk and express myself, I feel a lot more comfortable. So when I create content, I'm trying to push myself to something that I feel comfortable with. So I'm participating in all the vlogs, but I'm using someone else for the photo shootings, like a model. And you can't eliminate certain channels. So I can't say I'm not gonna make pictures with models because I don't like myself because I don't like to be in front of the camera. You need to find a creative solution. So hire someone or do illustrations. For example, another strength of mine is the hand-painted illustrations. I really like to create them, and I put a lot of this kind of content on my social media because it's something I like and identify with. And the third part of knowing yourself, it's just an advice for me, is to be genuine. I think this is super important. Not to create or show something that's fake, that's not you, not to buy any followers or likes for certain things, because in the long run it's just going to cause damage. So even if the growth is a bit slower, but I believe that it's much better to be genuine and represent something that you are. And with a bit of creativity, you will be fine. Okay, so my next big topic in terms of design, like building up how to create aesthetic design content, is know your audience. So this is another favorite quote of mine: "Beauty is instrumentally reliable." This quote was, or this idea was said by Massimo Vignelli. He's a very famous Italian graphic designer. And he created, I will show you a bit later, he created things that you're all familiar with his designs. And basically, his idea is that design is like an equation. So it's not like something that you can't define, it's subjective, it's like untouchable. He said that design is something that's very measurable in a way. And he also believed that beauty is like a direct way. If you create something that's aesthetic and beautiful, that's a direct way to success, like a measurable success. So he always said that ugly design never got anywhere, which is kind of true if we think about it, even if design is a bit subjective, but I think we can still focus on like the beauty. And these are the two pictures that I chose from him. One is the subway map of New York, the colorful lines. He created this design for the subway map and all the dots and all the signs that are used in the New York subway. And the other one is the logo of American Airlines, which are like, these are graphics that millions of people see every year. And they're representing very important companies. So it's also interesting how you combine beauty with functionality. So basically, it's not only you have to create something that's beautiful, but you also have to think about something that will be functional And in terms of jewelry, for example, I can create something very aesthetic, but that piece needs to be worn. So it has to be also comfortable on the skin. You have to be able to open it, close it. So a lot of functionalities combined into design. Okay, I chose this graph, this chart for you. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's basically a measurement of emotional design. So when you're building up your aesthetic design content, it's good to take a look at a few things that are helping you in plannings, and this is one of them. So basically, there are 3 different layers of emotional design. The outer layer, so the biggest circle, is called a visceral design, which means that what is the effect of emotional effect when people see your product at the first time. So the first time they open the box, or the first time they see you on the internet or in a shop window, or see your application surface or anything. So this is the first point where you have to create some kind of emotional contact to the product. And then the second one is the behavioral design. So this is when they already start using it. So besides the beauty, it has to also fulfill their expectations. For example, like an easy user surface, or let's say like an Apple computer that it's not only beautiful, but you open it and it's very easy to use the operation system. Okay, I'm a big Apple fan, so maybe that's why. But so this is more like when you immerse in the product, and you still have a positive feedback. And the core of it is the reflective emotional design, which means that after you immersed in the product, you're satisfied with it, you want to tell it to your friends that you used it, you want to recommend it, you want the product to identify with you. Let's say, I don't know, Harley Davidson motorcycle people who belong to this, who ride Harley Davidsons, they're usually super proud, and they go to all these chapter meetings and they want to show that they belong to the brand. So it's kind of like a long ongoing emotion. And all 3 at the end have to create delight and a positive feeling, basically. This chart, I'm not going to explain it very in detail, but it's a very good chart for you if you want to map your customers a bit. So basically what it helps with, it's called an empathy map. What it helps with, it helps you to identify your customer groups. When you're creating design content, I think you have to work from the back. So first you identify your customer groups, and then you try to collect information on all these different customer groups. You try to immerse in the behavior of all these customers. So as it's written, you imagine being in their shoes. So what they see, what they talk about, what they say, what they hear, what they do, where they travel, all these different social like things, what they're doing. And if you can kind of think with your customer's mind and understand based on what they're choosing a certain product, or based on what they're going to see your product, which social media they're using, why, for example, you will be able to create much more direct content that leads directly to them. So let's say in my case, I have collections that I'm selling on the internet, and I also design custom-made jewelry. So I have this very strong personal contact with my customers, because they need this kind of trust. Maybe they saw something on the internet, but they don't just want to buy it. They want to have a face, they want a personal consultation, they want to talk about it, see me, see that they can trust me, that I have a physical shop where they can come. So this is like a very special segment. and I have to think about their needs, and I have to communicate a lot for these people who need the personal touch. So that's why I create a lot of personal content, like the vlogs, when they can see close up what I'm doing. I speak about my profession, I speak about, I don't know, more technical things, and then they immediately gain the trust. All right. So this third part is going to be a bit more visual. I'm going to dive in a little bit to actually showing you certain contents and what I'm doing and how. So first I collected 4 platforms that are the most important when I'm creating aesthetic design content. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and my website. And one of the most important things is to be coherent. So try to communicate, okay, logo and these stuff, very basic, I think you all know about that, but try to communicate visually and like message-wise the same content through all your platforms, so people don't get confused that you're representing something on YouTube and then it's completely different on Facebook. Although you have to understand the pros and cons and limitations of each surface. So, for example, Instagram, in my opinion, is all about aesthetics and color. So I'll explain it a bit later, that with Instagram you have to focus. It's like a live canvas. You always focus on the aesthetics and the colors and the layout, and all these have to be like organized well. YouTube is a great platform to talk about technical stuff, be more personal, or advertise something, or be more like more humor. You can involve more humor in it. It's the easiest way because it's more active in terms of communication. Facebook is good, but it's a bit. I think it's catering for a completely different audience than Instagram. For example, a lot of people who are ordering custom-made things, they're following me on Facebook, but they're not on Instagram because of a generational thing. They may be above 40 or 50, and they know Facebook, they're comfortable using Facebook, but they're not really into Instagram yet. So it's a bit different, the audience that you can find on Facebook. And the website, so basically all these 3 social media platforms can generate e-commerce, like generate sales on your website. Because nowadays website is a bit slow. Like if you meet someone and they ask, okay, what do you do? And then you're not gonna, probably the least you're gonna mention that, oh, go and visit my website. You're gonna say, oh, this is my Instagram account, or go to my Facebook, or check out my video. But still, you need a website because you can't be a brand without, or a company without a website. So in my opinion, the biggest purpose of it is to generate all your traffic and e-commerce and to focus it on the website where you can actually make the sale. So talking about Instagram, I collected 4 different feeds now on the slide, and it's very important to when you're starting up an Instagram account, or even if you already have an Instagram account but maybe you're struggling a bit or you want to change it a bit, I think it's very important to first of all choose your theme. So as I said before, it's all about color. So color is the dominant thing on Instagram. It can be dark, it can be, as you see here, it can be like with the white frames around it. You can have, if your theme is more like outdoor and beach, then you see that it's all about blues and bright colors. So try to stick to a certain theme that you choose. And you don't have to stick to it forever, but try to make, for example, in my case, every collection that I do has a different color theme. So I started off with the orangey browns, and then I had a green time when everything was more like, in the winter it was more like darker and green, and now I'm doing something like spring with the kind of white and pink and like different combinations, but it's all coherent, and you have to think about the feed, the arrangement of the pictures, and they have to look good all together. Okay. So I think another important thing on Instagram is how you edit your pictures. And I chose here 2 of my hand-painted illustrations, and I want to show you the difference. So the first one on the right side is basically an illustration I made. I painted it, and then I just took a picture of it from above. And it's fine, but it's not enough in terms of communication. And the other one was made by a professional photographer and a professional camera. And as you can see, it's much more informal. Like, it's telling you a story. You can see how I'm painting, and you can see some of the gemstones. So it involves the customers a lot more. It's not like you just push something out there, this is my drawing. You have to tell a story, you have to involve them. And then you can also, with this picture, I can already relate to the YouTube and say, check out my vlog, because I can show you the whole design process on the vlog. So it's kind of important to pay attention to the quality of your pictures, because it really drives a lot of traffic in. And me, as selling like luxury jewelry and something that's considered to be more expensive, I can't post photos that are low quality, because if the picture doesn't create any connection to the piece, they will never even get to the shop. So that's like your first impression. Okay, with this slide, I chose two pictures of my feed. Basically, I wanted to show you guys how I changed, like before I started doing Instagram consciously and paying attention to all the important things, and then like before and after. So on the left side, you can see that the balance of my feed is really not aesthetic. Okay, I will point out a few problems. So, for example, I posted personal stuff like airplane and I don't know, holiday, really mixed with the professional stuff. It's not. I don't recommend it, at least not in this way. So if you're doing like a business account, and try to keep on your feed, try to keep it business, like about your business. Another thing that's not aesthetic, for example, that I have two pictures of my hand with the rings on them. First of all, there are two pictures next to each other with exactly the same angle, like the photograph was taken from the same angle. But on the other hand, the color is totally different. So there are, like, you can see the quality is not so good. So you want to try to organize your pictures in a way that it's comfortable and interesting for the viewer. So you want to put something like a close-up, and then maybe the next picture you want like a wider frame, and then you want like something maybe not about the product, but something more that makes you think, or like a detail picture. And this is what I try to do already with the right side. When I organized my feed, I worked with a professional photographer. Obviously, he knows already how to take the pictures, from what angle, and they're all showing, like some of them is close-up, further away. The colors are, it's a bit blurry now, but the colors are all combined in a good way. So these are very important points. Regarding the story, the Instagram story, you can also find templates that you can use, which are pretty cool, but the story is a bit more relaxed. So certain things that you don't post on the feed because you want to keep it neat and clean and organized. You can put more personal stuff in the story. You can put more information about the design process, the creation. For example, I posted on the story about this event today, but I didn't put it in the feed because it really doesn't go with other pictures. So it's something more dynamic and informal. I think it's a great way to communicate. Okay, and so as a summary to the presentation, I wanted to talk a little bit about how sometimes you get to a point in your business, or when you're building your business, or when you're creating content, that you're kind of like stuck. You don't know where to go, you don't know what to change in order to create more visibility. And I think it's very important to keep going, like don't give up. And even if, like there's another quote that I love from Einstein, not everything that counts can be counted. So I think it's important to keep this in mind, that sometimes you have to invest that time and the creativity, and it will eventually work out. You just have to keep doing it and not giving it up. And it's also, you hear a lot of disappointing things, like you can be distracted, for example, with the followers and likes. This is a very, very sensitive topic, I think, when you're a designer, you're creating design content. Because a lot of times, if you look at the bloggers, it's all about, or influencers, it's all about the numbers. So how many followers you have, how many likes you get, that's the way they measure your success, and that's the way you're going to get, obviously, new work, because brands are going to commission you based upon your performance. But, for example, in my case, I don't have a lot of followers. Obviously, it's growing slowly, but my followers, in terms of my business outcome, are much more important, because, let's say, most of my clients find me through either Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. So even if I only have 920 followers, it will translate into business outcomes. So I'm very busy with work, and I get a lot of orders, so I keep on creating very high quality content. But so it's important, as a closure, I want to say it's important that don't get disappointed by the numbers, but understand what kind of followers you need and who are you talking to, because sometimes it's good to have rather less followers than to have a lot that will never buy your product. They just like it or don't like it, and then it's not a business outcome. So thank you everyone for coming and listening. I hope I could transmit a bit of experience from how I do my design content. And if you have any questions, I'm very happy to hear.